All right, Mike Marolt, new book Shishapangma is Skiing the Highline is out. I love that subtitle.
Yeah.
This was early in your Himalayan career, Shishapangma.
Yeah, this was about 10 years into our career. And if you get the book and you read it, you'll find that the inspiration for it was really our first 8,000 meter peak in 1997, Broad Peak in Pakistan. And we had been taking skis to South America and to Alaska primarily as tools, but we were still doing a tremendous amount of ski mountaineering. And so when we decided to make the big leap to Broad Peak, an 8,000 meter peak, our first one, we were young and we didn't really have the confidence to take the skis. And when we got to Broad Peak, we realized that it was a huge mistake. And on that trip, Ed Viesters and a guy named Veka Gustafsson came in on our permit, and those guys were, Himalayan legends already, even though they were still young. And they got tired of hearing us complain about not having our skis. And I mean, Steve and I would be on Broad Peak, and it's a very steep route, but it had just perfectly smooth snow, and all we talked about was skiing. And he just got so sick and tired of hearing it. And I won't, blow the story. You can read it in the book. But the long and the short of it is that he came in and he said, you guys are not going to be satisfied unless you bring your skis to an 8,000 meter peak. I don't know if you can do it. I doubt it. But if you're interested in doing that, I would recommend Shishapangma. So Broad Peak immediately became a training ground for Shishapangma, which would happen a few years later.
What are the highlights of the Shishapangma trip? What do you remember as being great about that?
Well, I think that Shishapangma for us, for Steve, Jim, and I, we decided to take the skis. We decided to make it a ski expedition, but we were not delusional. I mean, less than 12 people had ever taken skis to the high Himalaya, to 8,000 meter peaks. And when you look through the list, they were all just dream team superstar alpinists that later in their career decided that they wanted to try and bring skis. And so we were definitely not superstar alpinists. We were just starting out in our career. But what advantage we had over them is that we were probably better skiers just because we grew up in Aspen and we were ski racers. And so we thought, well, we're just going to take the skis and ski from as high as we can. And we definitely wanted to get to 8,000 meters. And so when we got there and it slowly kind of all just fell into place, I can remember laying in my tent after skiing from the Central Peak, just thinking, did I really just do that? I mean, it was just like surreal. And it was really an eye-opener. And I've never not carried skis on a peak. I mean, keep in mind, back then, when somebody would ski a 14er in Colorado, that was newsworthy. I mean, everybody in the ski community knew about it. And I can remember climbing some of the 14ers when I was even younger than that, and leaving the skis 500 feet below the summit. I mean, it was, the gear was twice as heavy, and it was just a mentality, a breakthrough mentally that allowed us to understand, holy shit, we just carried skis to above 8,000 meters and clicked in and skied down. And that was a big learning lesson for us, and it was, it just sent us on our way.
Yeah. So Shishapangma and Cho-Yu get this reputation as the easiest peaks. And you get the comment that, oh, that sounds like fun. Me and my girlfriend's gonna go, me and my boyfriend's whatever, gonna go do that. What would you say to those people? Because I've done some desert towers way back in the middle of nowhere that have been a pain in the neck. What would you say to those people? Well,
anytime you get above 6,000 meters, 20,000 feet, it's just a completely different sport. And even today with the lightweight gear and the technology, if you're taking your skis to a 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 meter peak, you have to understand that the fail rate is super high. probably 70-80% of the people that try don't manage to do it. And the reason for that is because when you're climbing on a big mountain and you've got one or two or even three camps, when you throw in the ski gear, it adds an extra day carry to each one of those camps, because not only do you have to get the equipment up to those camps and all the food and the supply and the gas, but you got to carry your skis. And so it adds an extra day per camp. And so even though you're on a standard route or you're on an easy 8,000 meter peak, it's easy to talk like that when you're not on the peak. And it never ceases to amaze me, because I fall victim to it too. I mean, you when you're in the bar or on your couch or you're talking to your buddies, there's a lot of vibrato and there's a lot of hype, and it's we can do this. It's this is not K2, this is Shishapangma or Choyoyu. But when you stand at the base of those peaks, and the base is 17,000 feet and you're huffing and puffing, you realize that there's no such thing as an easy 7,000 or 8,000 meter peak, or even a 6,000 meter peak.
That's a good segue to the next question, which is, what do you want readers to get from this book? And the thing that I got from it was the incredible difficulty of doing this and the incredible amount of doubt.
Well, I mean, for me, the mental aspect was even more than for Steve and Jim. And the reason for that is because I was kind of the rah-rah guy. And I was kind of the guy that said, we're going to Shishapangma. I figured out how to get the money to do it. I figured out how to get the film crew to go and how to negotiate to get it paid for. And I made all the contacts and I got all the gear. And so there was this mental hurdle for me personally that if we go and shit hits the fan and bad stuff happens, and it can on those trips, I felt like there was an added burden on my shoulders, because even though it wasn't necessarily true, I felt like I kind of dragged my brother and my best friend into it. So for me, it was a lot of pressure. And I talk about it in the book. I mean, they both had to have an intervention. I mean, I'm in my tent just kind of freaking out one day, and they came in and they just said, "What's wrong with you?" And they helped me dial back. And that's the beauty of Steve, Jim, and I. We grew up in the same neighborhood, and we've been climbing our whole lives. They knew that something was going on with me, and there's always pressure. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many times you've gone to those high peaks. It's always unnerving. And for me on that trip, it was just a little bit more added into the anxiety level than for those guys. But they really helped pull me through, and they helped me to settle down, and they said, we're not going to take one step past our comfort zone, and it's just that simple. And we're there, we've got your back, you've got our back, and let's just go touch it.
Yeah. Now, for the past 5 years, I've learned how much you love to write. Is there another one coming out of you?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I started out and I financed most of our expeditions through producing films. And on Shishapangma, there was a film, and it's a great film, and I'm doing a tour with the book and the film. It was a film that was created by American Adventure Production for NBC and OLN back in the day, 23 years ago. And they asked me to be a shooter on that trip, and I was a still photographer at the time. I actually paid for a lot of that trip with still photos, but I got behind the video camera and I fell in love with it, and I started carrying cameras on all our expeditions, and I've done several films. But the problem that I have with producing films is that because I'm a one-man show, and I'm the grip, and I'm the shooter, and I'm the editor, and I'm the writer, and on top of that, I still got to carry all the gear and climb the 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 meter peak. I was very limited in what kind of content I could bring back. And when I started to write my first book, Natural Progression, the thing that I loved about it was that I didn't rely on the video to tell the story. I could say whatever the hell I wanted. And I could write whatever I wanted. I could write the whole story. And even though it's you still can't capture a month or 2 month trip in words, you can capture a lot more in words than you can if you're painted into a corner because of the video that you have to work with. So it was a lot freer. I had a lot more freedom to tell the whole story. I mean, with regards to Shishapangma, I mean, outside of that 42-minute film, this story's never been told. I mean, there were a lot of blips in articles when we did it because it was a pretty big splash in the ski mountaineering world, but we've never told the story. And to go back and to get the journals from the guys and to get the film crew's logs and to look at the video, it was such a great experience to go back in time and relive it. I mean, I can't believe the stuff that, had I not written the book, I never would have remembered again. So it really is getting all the information, getting the story, getting the dates, all of that stuff. A lot of personal feelings, what I was going through, to get that down into one place, my view on it. And I'm sure Steve and Jim will have comments on some of my takes on it and everything. But it's just freedom. Writing is freedom. So to answer your question, yeah, I've got another book that I've started, a third book, and it's really kind of a just what have I learned? And it's some of the lessons. You know, it's really funny. When I watched the film that was produced 20 years ago, I can't believe it's just almost embarrassing. There's one section where I actually say something like, you know, it would be great if you had these peaks in Colorado where you didn't have to go through all of the nonsense, all the third world discomfort and all that kind of stuff, and you could just go climb and ski. And I even say it. I mean, I'm a climber and a skier. Well, now at age 59, over the last 25 years, I mean, all of the stuff that I dreaded when we went to Shishapangma, the third world country, the different cultures, the problem solving and the discomfort, that's the main draw for me now. I mean, that is the reason why I like to do this stuff. I love to climb and I love to ski, but I love the journey. The journey is what keeps me coming back.
Next trip, where is it going to be? Another South America jaunt?
Yeah, I mean, at age 59, we are still climbing and skiing. I'm still staying in shape. And as a matter of fact, I turned 59 on November 18th at over 20,000 feet skiing a peak out on the Puna Atacama. And so we still have quite a bit of gas in the tank. I don't know if we're going to get back to Asia. I don't know if we have that much gas in the tank. There is quite a big difference between 6,000 and 7,000 meters and 8,000 meters. I know I could climb those peaks still, but you know, ever since that broad peak lesson, there's no sense in climbing those peaks unless you can ski down them. And it's changed. I mean, one of the cool things that I talk about in the book is that when you look at our kits on Shishapangma compared to the kit that I have now, it's about twice the weight.
Yeah.
And so we hit the sport just perfectly, where can't do anything about getting older and getting a little bit weaker. But at the same time, the technology made the ski gear so much better and so much lighter that it has allowed us at age 59 to keep climbing and skiing, which, you know, if you'd have asked me that when I was 30 years old, I would have laughed. I mean, but so we've been going for the last, you know, not including COVID, we do a trip or two to South America. We've gotten into bagging and skiing these 6,000 meter peaks. I skied my 21st or 22nd 6,000 meter peak on my birthday at 59, and you know, we're still having fun. We're still enjoying each other's company and trying to stay as healthy as we can. So we'll definitely be heading to South America next fall, and you know, we'll just climb and ski until we don't like it anymore.
Congratulations on the new book.
Thank you.